your relationship with your spouse can never be stronger, better, more blessed than your relationship with your God. Why? Because the one feeds the other. And so that the horizontal relationship is never going to be stronger than the vertical relationship. Oftentimes we think about just the big things that we got to watch for, the big problems in marriage, and the little foxes go unnoticed. Catch the little foxes because they cause destruction. Well, we are in week 2 of this series that we're calling Love Songs as we take a look at the song of all songs, the Song of Solomon, the greatest love song ever written. And as we've already discovered, this book of the Bible, which is written as a song, is filled with a practical and powerful inspiration and instruction for our relationships. We're learning about dating, we're learning about singleness, we're learning a lot about marriages. But also, God is pointing us again and again to a greater relationship that we have, pointing us to a greater love song, His love for us. Last week in chapter 1, we looked at falling in love, and we met our characters in the song here. We've got the Shulamite, the leading lady of the story, and then we've got the beloved, the knight in shining armor, a young King Solomon. And as the chapter came to a close last week, we saw the beloved, the man, speaking words of love to his lady, but they weren't just random compliments. No, they were speaking directly to some insecurities that she had shared with him earlier in the chapter. And so what we saw was he was speaking life into these insecure places. Well, as we get to chapter 2, we're going to see that the effect that those words have on her, because in chapter 2, she's going to start to daydream a little bit. And it's a daydream about desire. But also, right from verse 1, we realize that because of her beloved's very specific words of love, she's now seeing herself a little differently. In chapter 1, she was saying, oh, don't look at me. I don't like the way I look. I'm insecure about my complexion. But her words have changed a little bit. Let's take a look at verse 1 of chapter 2. We'll put the verse 1 on the screen here for you. Now she says, I am the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valleys. That's a little different. She went from don't look at me to having these words of love spoken over her. And now, you know what? I'm a rose, right? So let's pop our cassette tape into the player. We'll play track 2. Last week, our title came from a song in the 1970s. This week, we're going to fast forward all the way to 1994. Let's see our title here. Remember Batman Forever? That was back in the 80s and 90s when every movie had a song that went with it. Kiss from a Rose. Song of Solomon, chapter 2. Now, not only is our leading lady starting to see herself a little differently here, she's also beginning to daydream now. She's going to start imagining what it's going to be like one day with her beloved. And this chapter is going to teach us a whole lot about how we navigate desire. Now, here's something worth pointing out. Even though she now says, okay, I'm the rose of Sharon, I'm the lily of the valley, she's comparing herself to a flower, she's comparing herself to very commonplace flowers. Now, today, in our context, we think of a rose or a lily as being kind of exceedingly beautiful and special. But when we go back to the original context of what she's saying here in the ancient context in the Hebrew, these flowers she's referring to are certainly beautiful, but they weren't necessarily super special. So yes, life's been spoken into her. She's starting to see herself differently, but there's still kind of a low way she's talking about herself. It's kind of like she's saying, okay, I'm a flower, but then I'm just kind of an average flower. I might be a lily, but I'm not a knockout or anything. Well, her beloved is about to have something to say about that. Verse 2, he says, like a lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters. I love this. Solomon isn't going to argue with her here. He's just going to change the context of the conversation. He tells her, oh, you're just a lily? Okay. Then everybody else is a thorn. Right? That's a good line, by the way. Now, he's getting at something really important here because it's more than just a line. He's actually saying something that's got a lot of weight to it. He's telling her that there is no comparison between her and anyone else. And that's a pretty significant thing. I first learned the importance of that idea a long time ago back in my single days. I was hanging out with this girl, and I wanted to be more than just hanging out with this girl because she was pretty, she was following the Lord, she was funny. I just had a lot of respect for her, and I was like, man, I would like for this to go somewhere. Well, we were out to lunch one day with her and one of her friends, also a great godly girl. And I decided, you know what, I'm just kind of put out the vibe a little bit, and I'm gonna pay them a compliment. And so I said to them, hey, I want you to know that spending time with you, you've really raised the bar for what I'm looking for in a woman. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I nailed that compliment. Instead, this beautiful, godly young woman across the table from me looks me dead in the eye and says, oh, I don't like that. And I was like, oh, no. I said, what do you mean? And she said, look, I know you're trying to compliment us. I appreciate that, but here's the thing. I don't want to raise the bar for somebody. I want to be the bar for somebody. What was she saying? She was saying that at the end of the day, she didn't want to know how she stacked up against all the other women in the world. She wanted to find someone that saw her as the only woman in the world. That's powerful stuff. And she was right. And by the way, that woman has been the only woman in my world for the last 20 years now. And that leads us to point number 1 for your notes today. Number 1, they are the bar. They are the bar. Solomon shows us right here in the second verse. She is speaking in comparison language, talking about like, okay, I'm a flower, but I'm just an average flower. And he jumps and said, no, there's no comparison. In fact, there's not even other flowers. There's some thorns out there, but you're the only flower. Listen, married people, this kind of seems sweet and like, oh, he's just throwing a line. It's pretty good. No. Listen, he's getting to the heart of something that can change or even save your marriage. They are the bar. When you're married, you're no longer comparing your spouse, right, your husband, your wife, to anyone else because there isn't anyone else. Can I speak some strong words for a moment? You're like, you already are. When you're single, you have a type, right? When I was single, I had a type. You've got a type. And someone says, oh, I need to introduce you to so-and-so. They are so your type. It's that certain type of person we're attracted to. Married people in the room, you don't have a type anymore. You have a person. You don't like blondes. You like your wife. You don't like the rugged type. You like your husband. There's no type. There's no celebrity pass. I know it's just a little joke we have, and oh yeah, our marriage is great, we're doing great. But man, if Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson ever... I know that's a little joke. Listen, that's actually undermining this incredibly powerful truth that we're learning in chapter 2. No, they are the bar. Now, this should also be a challenge and an encouragement to us that if that means if we're the bar for our spouse, then we ought to be the bar they deserve. So we take care of ourselves. We treat them well. We strive to be the best version of ourselves that God intends for us because they deserve it. But listen, if you want to unlock a whole new level of contentment in your marriage, a new level of security in your marriage, and a new level of enjoyment in how you view your spouse, then you need to know that they are the bar. Whether a lily or a rose, it doesn't matter when everyone else is a thorn. Now let's see what the Shulamite has to say to this as we continue reading in verse 3. She responds, she says, well, like an apple tree among the trees of the woods, so is my beloved among the sons. I sat down in his shade with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. So no, she now returns the favor here, right? She's like, look, out all the woods, you're the only apple tree. You got a different translation. It might say apricot, it might say pomegranate. The idea is you're a fruit tree in the midst of everything else. There's no one else like you. But then she goes on about why she compares him to an apple tree. And it gives us some insight on singles, what we should be looking for, and all of us, who we should strive to be. Ready for point number 2? Here it is. Fruitful, not futile. Shade, not shady. Now, notice these things she's saying about him. She said, this apple tree is filled with apples. It's bearing fruit, and she can sit down in the shade from the tree. Now, she's speaking in the metaphor of the song again here in these comparisons, but what she's saying is something that's really important. She's telling us what to look for and who to be. First of all, she says fruitful. Talk about a biblical point, right? What did Jesus say in Matthew chapter 7? You shall know them by their fruit. I'll get in conversations with single people who just start dating someone and they're all excited, and then I'll be the one who ruins their day by saying, what's their walk with God like? And I can always tell by the language that comes back exactly where they are, because they'll say something like, well, I mean, they believe in God. They're just, they just kind of got hurt by church, and so they just kind of, we don't really talk about that much, but their profile said Christian. So, listen, single people, you're not looking for rumors of fruit.
That's right.
You're not looking for the appearance of fruit. You're not even looking for the promise of fruit. You will know them by the fruit itself. Remember in the Gospels, there's that kind of weird story where Jesus curses the fig tree. And we're like, what was that all about? Well, you know why he cursed it? Because he walks up to this fig tree and it gives all the appearance of being filled with fruit, but it had absolutely nothing to offer. So we look for the fruit. Does their faith actually change the way they live? You're like, well, what kind of fruit am I looking for? Okay, let's get real basic and real biblical. How about the fruit of the Spirit? What's the fruit of the Spirit? It's the supernatural byproduct of walking with God, of the Spirit dwelling in us. Right? It doesn't mean the things we're striving for. It literally means the fruit that we bear as a result of having the Spirit within us. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. Do you see that in this person? Are you bearing that fruit? Or are you trying to put on a show of having the appearance of that fruit? Oh, we know the church words to say. But here the woman says she can actually see the fruit of his life, and it's sweet to her taste. And she also says that she can sit under the shade with great delight, meaning she's found someone that can provide a covering. There's security here, right? It's not, I don't know where I stand with this guy. He's always got this lock on his phone. He never leaves the room without it. And I don't, when he's not with me, I'm really not sure where he is. No. There is a covering here. There is security. This is someone willing to take the heat. These are things that matter. Single people, this is what you look for. Married people, you're done looking. So now, you need to make sure this is the person you are for your spouse. Now, verse 4, the Shulamite continues here. Now she's talking to her girlfriends. She says, he brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love. Sustain me with cakes of raisins, refresh me with apples, for I am lovesick. So she's daydreaming still, and her daydream continues. And in this kind of dream she's having, now she's talking to her girlfriends about how great her guy is. And she says, oh, and he brought me to the banqueting house. In Hebrew, it really literally means the house of wine, meaning a public place of celebration and joy. So they're out on the town. They're having date night, but he's being incredibly intentional. He's holding the door for her. He's holding her hand. He's paying her compliments. He's showing her affection. That's why she says, his banner over me is love. He's not embarrassed of her. He's not embarrassed of his love for her. No, instead, that love is radiating out for anyone to see. That's the shade he's providing. And what does this do for her? Well, it brings her more security, right? She feels secure in this love. And listen, that security is churning up some desire. So she's like, bring on the charcuterie board. I need some raisin cakes. I need some apples because I am love sick. Right? The security stirs up the desire all the more. Now, when you hear that word lovesick, if you've ever been lovesick, you know exactly what she's talking about. Right? We know that feeling. It's just like, I can't think of anything else. You know, was the old Disney movie Bambi? It was Twitter-pated was the word. You know, you just constantly thinking about them. And we remember this is early on in their relationship. They're still in the dating phase. Things are new. And so often that's when we feel the love sickness the strongest. In fact, science tells us that there's this hormone, there's a chemical reaction that's released in us early on in the relationship that makes us feel that feeling that we would call lovesick. But that chemical reaction doesn't happen forever. The scientists say that starts to fade at about 4 or 5 years into a relationship. Now that's interesting because statistically, divorce rates spike at the 4.5-year mark of a marriage. Why? Well, partly because we've taught ourselves that being lovesick means real love. Now, that love sickness is a great feeling, but it's just part of the love. Now, here's what's interesting, and this is what I love about God's amazing design for relationships and marriage, is that same study shows that when we continue past that 4 and 5 year mark, and we walk in a committed relationship with one another, and we put work in the relationship, a different chemical reaction takes place. There's a chemical released called oxytocin. Oxytocin is the same chemical released in a mother that helps her bond with her newborn. So it's not that lovesick feeling anymore, but now it's a deep connection and bond between two people. But then science tells us that as that continues on and on, the process actually can start over again. That the stronger the bond, the more likely it is for that original love sickness to come back. And now you got people married for 25, 30 years that are walking around like they just started dating because they've continued in this relationship and these chemicals are coming again. Listen, we're not led by our feelings or emotions, but these feelings and emotions can be gifts to us in a relationship when we walk them out the way God intended. So this love sickness here, this is that early stage, right? She's just in those first moments, and she is now daydreaming because she's so lovesick. And her daydream is about to escalate. Verse 6. His left hand is under my head, and his right hand embraces me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or by the does of the field, do not stir up nor awaken love until it pleases. Now listen, a couple weeks from now, not next week, but the week after, we're gonna give a little disclaimer for the weekend, and we're actually gonna make available something for our middle school students during this time. Because in that chapter, God's word, not me, God's word is going to get a little explicit. Now, in the meantime, though, I know we've got 6th grade and up in the room. I've got my 6th graders and up in the room. And so I'm going to tread lightly. But let me just put it this way. When we go back to the context of the Hebrew phrases she's using here, his left hand's under my head, his right hand embraces me. She's not talking about a hug. This is a passionate embrace, to say the least. She is daydreaming about her future marriage and about the desires that she has. But notice, she quickly turns to her friends and reminds them to not awaken or stir up love too early, right in the midst of that. And this leads us to a really important point when it comes to desire. Point number 3, do not open till Christmas. You know when grandparents send the gifts and they send them it's like November, but they just want to make sure you have them. But it comes at that tag, don't open these till Christmas, right? Now, I wanted to use that phrase as a point. First of all, because I think it's memorable, but also because of 2 main reasons. And the first one is this, and it's one we can oftentimes miss in a church setting. Listen, it's important for us to understand that this desire she has, these desires she's daydreaming about, they are a gift. The desire is not bad. You see, a lot of us, especially those raised in the church, we were taught along the way that any sort of desire like this is dirty, and we should be ashamed of it. No, God is the creator of that desire, and he's the creator of what fulfills that desire. This song is literally given to us as an example, as an ideal of a relationship. And in it, she's literally thinking about the future. She's filled with desire for her marriage because it's a good thing. But listen, any good gift must be opened at the right time. She's daydreaming about this. She's thinking about this. But notice, she's not talking to him about it. She's not acting on it. No, listen, she understands the power of this desire. She understands the future context of her marriage in which this desire will be fulfilled. And in the meantime, she's warning her friends and reminding herself that the time has not yet come. And by the way, another important thing here. Notice this. She isn't saying, don't do this until it's time. She's saying, don't stir up or awaken love until it's time. Meaning, it's not about a line she doesn't want to cross. It's about a direction she's not even willing to go. A lot of times I'll talk to single people and they want to know, well, what's the line? Like, how far can I go before it's sin? Where do we need to stop? That's the wrong question. What she is telling us here is that when we awaken things before their time, when we stir stuff up, whether it's physical or just getting emotionally enmeshed and getting these soul ties that are there, it's a dangerous thing. It leads to destruction in a relationship in the wrong time. Listen, this is why I say something to single people that most people would consider really prudish. I would say, hey, you want some advice on how to avoid this? When you're going on dates, go out in public, right? I know that, like, for the past few years, it's like, no, we only do anything on screens now. No, go out in public. It's a great world out there. Go out with friends. Like, oh, Ron, you think we can't be alone? I'm just saying, it's a little harder to stir up those things in a movie theater than it is when it's just the two of you on the couch in front of a movie, right? We don't stir these things up because at best it's going to lead to frustration. At worst, it's going to lead to some destruction. But the thing is, we have such a romance-soaked culture that even little kids in grade school are talking about falling in love and going out. And this, I'm in first grade and I have 3 girlfriends because this, and this, right? They haven't even hit puberty yet, but they know there's some sort of chemical and I'm supposed to be in love. Why? Because we have a culture that has now been built around awakening these things before it's time. The Shulamite here says, no, be on guard. Don't awaken until it pleases, meaning, right, this desire, it's a good thing. And God, like, it's going to please, it's going to bring pleasure, it's a gift from God. So don't stir it up until you're ready to walk in it in the context of marriage. Verse 8. She talks again. The voice of my beloved. Behold, he comes, leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills. He sounds really manly. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Okay, better. Behold, he stands behind our wall. He's looking through the windows, gazing through the lattice. My beloved spoke and said to me, rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. For lo, the winter is past, and the rain is over and gone. The flowers appear on the earth. The time of singing has come, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The fig tree puts forth her green figs, and the vines with the tender grapes give a good smell. Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. O my dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the cliff, let me see your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. So we've got more flowery language here. She's making comparisons, but basically what he's doing here is saying, hey, let's go. Let's get out. Let's go for a hike. Let's get out in nature. The spring's here. Things are smelling good. You're so beautiful. The only thing I could think of is seeing your face next to a waterfall. Right? Let's go out on the town. Let's go do what we want to do. He's pursuing her. And we can learn from this as well. Point number 4. Don't throw it in neutral. So often when we first start a relationship, there's that pursuit. Right? The man's trying to plan everything just so, and then we'll do this, and I wonder if she'd rather do this or this, and we're trying to use the right words and how we talk. And meanwhile, the girl's making sure she looks just right for the date night, and she writes some little love notes. And then time passes, and familiarity sets in. We start to take our foot off the gas, and before long, we can just shift into neutral and start coasting. And then someone says, well, the marriage has just turned into 2 roommates with the same last name. This is not the intention or goal of a godly marriage. Don't lose the pursuit. Now, men, if you remember from our study in 1st and 2nd Peter, this pursuit begins with us. Right? There's pursuit on both sides, but men, we are responsible to set the tone for the relationship. So this is a call for us to step up, but it is for both of us. So ladies, keep writing the little love notes. Keep sending the steamy texts that make him distracted in the meetings. Husbands, take her out on the dates. Actually, plan the dates. If it's true that they are the bar, then that means there's nobody else. So pursue them. Treat them like they're the only one. This is playing offense in the relationship. Right? No more neutral. It's time to play offense. Now, in verse 15, before now, we've met the Shulamite, we've met the beloved, and we've met the daughters of Jerusalem, her girlfriends. Now we're going to meet a new group of characters here. We're going to meet her brothers. And in verse 15, they're looking on, approving of the relationship, and they're like, hey, that's great, and you guys should play offense, but we also want to remind you to play defense. Check verse 15. Her brothers say, catch us the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vines, for our vines have tender grapes. Now, back in chapter 1, the Shulamite told us that she and her family grew up tending a vineyard. And now that vineyard is going to be the setting for this really important metaphor here. Her brothers are reminding them to watch out for the little foxes that are eating the tender grapes and breaking the vines. Then these little foxes, if not caught, are going to ruin the vineyard. Obviously, what they're talking about here is the vineyard of their relationship. So point number 5, we're just going to use the same word picture the brothers are using here. Number 5, catch the little foxes. What this part of the song is talking about are those seemingly little things in a relationship. Right? They're just the little foxes. A fox is a small animal anyway, and these are little foxes. That can't be so big a deal. No, but if not caught, it's going to destroy the vineyard. So what are the little foxes? There's those little things that sneak into a relationship and cause damage. Now, there's a lot of these. Let's just talk about a couple examples, and you can spend some time thinking through what they might be in your relationship. But here's one. Annoyance is a little fox. You might be thinking, like, if I can't feel annoyance from my spouse, I will not know how to relate to them. Well, listen, you're going to be annoyed with your spouse. When you get two people that close together with that different personality, like you're going to get annoyed with someone. What I'm talking about here is not the occasional getting annoyed with them. What I'm talking about is when we let annoyance be the norm. When the first response is the eye roll. When the first response is, ugh, they never, they always, of course they didn't. Because that setting of annoyance in a relationship turns into resentment. It's a little fox that has entered the vineyard and causes damage. How about this one? Allowing yourself to be too busy to focus on your relationship is a little fox. We start crowding out life with all the busyness, and it's just like, well, this is just the season of, I got to work a lot, and we'll do date nights next year. We'll get there. Don't worry. Or this, we just really need to focus on the kids right now. Can I say, young parents, your kids need to see a great marriage relationship more than anything else. And what happens is we start to misprioritize things, and pretty soon, the vineyard's not looking so good anymore. Going back to our first point, here's another one. Comparison and roving eyes is a little fox. Constantly comparing our spouse to someone else or feeding our mind with images of other women, other men, other relationships that takes our eyes off our one is a little fox that spoils the vineyard. It's so common. It's just what everyone does. We just keep swiping, and boy, that algorithm sure dials in real quick what I pause on. Watch and catch the little foxes. And here's the last one I'll give you just as an example. There's many more, but here's one that seems so small. Not prioritizing our walk with God individually or as a couple is a little fox. Because what happens is, you're just like, oh, yeah, we're believers. This is important to us. But, man, that weather's great. It'd be good to be out on the boat. We'll go to church when it rains. Man, I'm just so tired this morning. If I read the Bible this morning, I don't know if I get anything out of it anyway. I'll do that when I feel better. Right? I don't have time for prayer tonight. I just got to, get the game's on, then we're going to do this. But what happens is, pretty soon we realize, man, we just don't seem to be clicking like we were before. What's happening? It's because we've allowed a little fox in the vineyard. Your relationship with your spouse can never be better than your relationship with your God. I need to say that again. I was going to say, can I say that? No, I'm not giving you the choice. Someone needs to hear that again. Your relationship with your spouse can never be stronger, better, more blessed than your relationship with your God. Why? Because the one feeds the other. That's right. And so the horizontal relationship is never going to be stronger than the vertical relationship. Oftentimes we think about just the big things that we got to watch for, the big problems in marriage, and the little foxes go unnoticed. Catch the little foxes because they cause destruction. Verse 16, the Shulamite speaks again. We'll finish the chapter. She says, "My beloved is mine, and I am his. He feeds his flock among the lilies. Until the day breaks and the shadows flee away. Turn, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or a young stag upon the mountains of Bether. So the Shulamite ends the chapter by restating one of the themes that she's been talking about. It's really one of the underpinnings of desire in this whole chapter, and that has been security. She says, he's mine, and I'm his. They are the bar. They're fruitful. They provide shade. We're being careful not to awaken things too soon, but we're also not going to put it in neutral. We're watching out for the little foxes. We're guarding our relationship. And so now there is a security in this relationship. And then she turns to her beloved once more, and she says, come fight for me. Overcome obstacles for me, like a gazelle, like a deer bouncing over the mountains. Yeah, we're going to look out for the little things, but listen, I want to know that we can get through the big things too, whether it's the little foxes or the big mountains. Are you willing to fight for me? She's been listening to oldies, right? She's been listening to Tammy Terrell and Marvin Gaye singing, "Ain't No Mountain High Enough to Keep Me From You." Little stuff, we're going to catch the foxes. Big stuff, we're going to climb the mountains because God's put us together and this relationship is going to go the distance. So now more deeply practical wisdom here for our relationships in chapter 2, specifically as we talk about desire. But just as we did last week, I want to finish our time today by looking at the powerful way this whole chapter points us back to the greater love song, right? The love that our God has for us. That's point number 6. I am his, he is mine. Look, can you just sit with that for a moment? I am his, he is mine. The security of their relationship has been a powerful theme here for the two lovebirds. And it points us to the importance of the greater truth of security we have in Jesus. For the believer in Jesus, you can also say, I am my beloved's, and my beloved's is mine. And once again, we have this example of the Song of Solomon is a book about human relationships, and we're learning practical stuff. But also, we learn from God that these beautiful human relationships are a shadow. They're a picture of the greater relationship of his love for us. And this is a great example because she sees her beauty as a rose. She sees herself now as a lily in the romantic terms. And what did Jesus say? He said, consider the lilies of the field. And what does he go on to say after that? He says, how much more does your God love you? We can say that we belong to him because he came for us. He pursued us. He leapt over the mountains of our sin. He paid a price we could not pay. You know, I'm pretty good at that. I'm pretty good at saying, yep, I belong to him. But listen, he also tells us that just as we are his, he is ours. That's harder for me to get my mind around, but that's what he says. He says, listen, I've given you a new name. I've adopted you in a new family. And I have made you a co-heir with Christ, meaning I have given you the full rights of a firstborn son in my family, because just as you are mine, I am yours. What? That means we can also say, his banner over me is love. He puts a sign above us for anyone to see saying, look, they belong to me, I belong to them. When you look at them, you are seeing someone who is covered by my love. That's real security. That no one can pluck us from his hand because he is ours and we are his. And once again, the greatest love song ever written points to the even greater love song of his love for us. His banner over you is love. The song he sings over you is a love song.
Hey everybody, Pastor Brian here. Thanks so much for checking out this teaching from the house. Look, if something stood out to you, ministered to you, or maybe you could use some prayer or have some more questions about Jesus, drop us a line. info@thehousechat.com. That's chat with 2 T's. Now, if you want to support the ministry God is doing here at the house, or just get a whole bunch more information on who we are as a church, you can head to thehousechat.com. Have a great week.